J'ai eu la chance d'interviewer Miles Jacobson, le directeur du studio de sport interactif, le papa d'FM, répond à toutes mes questions. Je lui demande bien sûr comment il se sent à quelques jours de la sortie d'FM 26. On parle bien sûr de la bêta, on parle de l'interface, des consignes bord de terrain qui ont disparu. Est-ce qu'on les reverra un jour? On parle aussi de l'avenir de la licence. Bref, une discussion très intéressante. Allez, sans plus attendre, je vous laisse avec cette interview et avec Miles Jacobson. Pour des raisons pratiques, j'ai retourné mes questions en français et j'ai sous-titré bien sûr ses réponses. Bonjour Miles, c'est un plaisir de t'avoir ici aujourd'hui. Merci de prendre le temps de répondre à nos questions. La première que je te pose, c'est comment tu vas?
I'm okay, thank you, Arthur. I'm quite tired. We're very busy at the moment, trying to get the game as good as it possibly can be for launch. And yeah, both. I'm very excited about the game release, obviously, but I'm also quite nervous, and I'm not normally this nervous at a launch because we have changed so much. You know, this is a new game. This isn't FM 24.5. And it's going to be really interesting and exciting to see how it goes down with the community. But we've learned a lot over the last few months about particularly with the UI, and I know this is something that you want to talk about as well, but the UI takes a lot of time for some people to get used to. What we're finding at the moment is that newer players and less hardcore players are picking up the new UI in half an hour, sometimes two. Whereas the older players, the people who've been playing for 20 years, who play 1,000 hours a year, they are struggling a little bit with the UI. And one of the reasons for this, and by struggling, what's been interesting with the alpha testers that we have working on it, is there becomes a point where the UI clicks for people. But that could be 10 hours, it could be 20 hours. It's a very long time, like longer than most games' average play times. We've been thinking about the psychology behind that and why that's happening. And basically, one of the reasons is when you play for 1,000 hours, you know where everything is and you're doing things naturally. You don't have to think about where anything is in the game. But because the whole UI has changed, it's completely different and everything is in a different place. People actually have to unlearn where things are before they can learn where they are again. And it's quite an interesting dilemma for us for release. And one of the things that we need to do before release and be really good at is actually explaining the UI better to people, explaining where things are, explaining how to use the new multiple navigation system. Because if we don't do that, people are going to have a worse experience. The hardcore are going to have a worse experience when they first play the game, and we don't want that to be the case. We want everyone to enjoy it from the off. So it's an interesting dilemma that we face at the moment. And the outpouring of joy from people when the UI does click, when they do get used to it, has been great to see. But when we've been bringing people into the office, they're literally up and running and playing in an hour. So how can we educate people who aren't in the office, who aren't getting help with the UI? How can we do that better so that people can get into the game quicker? Because this year's game, it is a revolution, right? It's the biggest changes that we've made in over 20 years to Football Manager. And that comes with dangers.
Est-ce que tu dirais que c'est une sortie comme les autres, comme FM24, ou est-ce que la sortie d'FM26 est différente?
It's completely different to 24 or 23. Thankfully, it's also much better than 25. That was a horrible year. But yeah, I mean, you know, for everyone in the studio, it's different. The team at the moment are working so fast. They're being absolutely brilliant with us trying to get as much polish into the game as possible at this stage, which the team always are at this time of year, but it feels that feels different as well, because the game, of course, being the first of our next 20-year journey rather than being the 21st of our previous journey, there's been a lot more to do, and things have come in later, and feedback has come in a bit later because the game was less stable, because it's a brand new game. But we're getting there now, and I think the pace of change is really, really good, and we're trying to cram in as many positive changes as we can before the pre-release beta comes out.
Miles, tu avais confié que en décembre 2024, tu avais joué à une version du jeu lors de tes vacances de Noël. Alors c'était à l'époque FM25, mais tu avais dit que tu n'avais pris aucun plaisir à jouer. Alors est-ce que maintenant, avec le build actuel, avec la version FM26, tu retrouves ce plaisir à jouer?
I had a great time playing it at the weekend. I really, really, really enjoyed it, even though I'm playing with a team that I don't particularly like, but they were chosen a little bit randomly. But yeah, I had a lot of fun. But what's weird with this, Arthur, is it doesn't really matter what I think. And it does, but it's what the consumers think. And about 6 weeks ago was the first time in a playtest that we had in the studio that someone went, it feels fresh, but still like FM.
Y a-t-il eu un élément déclencheur, une feature ou quelque chose qui a fait que tu t'es dit ah ça y est, enfin je rejoue à Football Manager et bah ça y est, je reprends du plaisir à jouer?
You know what? I'd have to ask them. Because for me, it's just the overall feeling of getting absorbed into the game world, and that one more match feeling. I want to play one more game. I want to play one more game. I want to play one more game.
That
And
feeling
that was
every player feels when they play Football Manager.
Absolutely. And that feeling was so strong at the weekend that I carried on playing until silly o'clock and finished the season. So that was a good feeling to have, because it's probably there's a lot of, we say in the UK, there's a lot of secret sauce. You know, there's a reason why Heinz ketchup tastes better than other ketchup, right? But no one knows the reason why, because that's their secret sauce. And using a French example of that, the Big Bacon Burger from Quick. Okay, I used to work in a Quick Burger. I could drink that sauce. It's so nice.
Yeah.
But even though I worked there, I didn't know what the secrets were that went into that sauce. It was probably some chemicals that weren't very good for me, but it tasted great. That secret sauce is a moment where everything melds together in FM, where everything just clicks, and you're not getting those moments of falling out of the game because you see something. So a lot of it was down to polish and bug fixing, to open that up, and also optimization of the UI as well. The UI was a little bit cumbersome to use, whereas it's now pretty slick.
Revenons un petit peu en arrière, Miles, sur FM19, le studio a dépassé pour la première fois les 1 million de ventes de Football Manager. J'imagine qu'à l'époque, ça devait être quasiment que des joueurs PC. Sur FM24, vous avez dépassé les 20 millions de joueurs. Alors, quelle part de joueurs PC est toujours active dans ces 20 millions? Et surtout, aussi, par rapport à ça, est-ce que vous avez designé la nouvelle interface pour attirer encore plus de joueurs, de nouveaux joueurs? Peut-être au risque d'ailleurs de déplaire, on va dire, aux joueurs qui ont plus l'habitude de l'ancienne version de l'interface qu'on connaît tous.
So it's about 25% of people play on PC.
For FM24?
For FM24. But that includes people playing on PCs on big screens and on little screens and on Steam Deck. They're all part of the PC family. So we didn't design the UI for console. We didn't design the UI for new players. We designed the new UI for the next generation of Football Manager, which is hopefully going to last 20 years. And we have to take into account loads of different screen sizes. We have to take into account that a lot of people play games with control pads on PCs now. We had to take into account Steam Decks and that whole plethora. So the UI itself is based around websites. It's based around productivity tools. It's based around operating systems and how easy those are to use. So you spoke there about potentially alienating the older players. I mentioned this right up front, that what we found is it's taking the older players longer to learn how to use the UI, right? But once they do, they get it and they find it natural again. We have 6 different types of player that we design the game for. So we don't look at things as PC or console or mobile, and I'll come back to that in a minute on why we don't. When we're working on designing the game, there are 6 different types of player, and 2 of them are the kinds of players that play 1,000 hours plus. That's about 6% of our PC audience. And the others they include new players, they include returning players, they include players that play the game until they've won what they want to win and then actually go and play another game. They don't start a career. There are people out there who don't play Football Manager for the whole year, as crazy as that might sound.
Yeah, for me too, but I understand.
So when we were putting the UI together, we were looking at each of those cohorts or personas, whatever you want to call them, and how they play. And let's be frank, the first version that we did of the UI failed, because if it didn't fail, we would have released FM25, right? It was about the user experience and finding things. So we had to go back to the drawing board. We had to do a lot more consumer testing with it. And we really do think what we've come up with now is something that is a modern, slick user interface that looks like the kind of things that are there on computers that you're using every single day. In 20 years' time, it will probably look quite dated, and then we'll have to do something different. But it's about starting from a point and then improving on that over time, just like we've done with every single game that we've released and all of our previous UIs. We improve every year. So yeah, this is the start of a new journey.
Mais certaines choses qui étaient sur FM24 ne sont plus sur FM26, en tout cas c'est ce qui a été annoncé, comme par exemple eh bien, pouvoir prendre la tête d'une sélection internationale, ou bien encore les consignes bord de terrain, on pouvait encourager, on pouvait critiquer, moi c'est quelque chose que j'aimais beaucoup. Est-ce que vous n'avez pas pu les remettre parce que justement c'était trop court dans le temps de développement et vous êtes concentré sur d'autres choses, ou bien alors c'est peut-être que c'est trop dur pour l'instant de mettre ça avec le nouveau moteur de jeu Unity. Et la question aussi, c'est est-ce que peut-être on pourrait avoir certaines de ces choses-là qui pourraient revenir durant l'année FM26, peut-être avec des mises à jour?
So there are a few things that haven't made it across, particularly quality of life things. There are also a bunch of new things in 26 that people haven't seen in previous FM games. Some things were design choices. So for the touchline shouts that you refer to, they basically didn't work. And for us to get them to work in the way that they should work required a complete technology shift for the whole of our match engine. And that is something that we may well do over the years, but it's going to be multiple years until that's back. You mentioned international management. And again, we weren't happy with international management in the game. We understand its importance, but we gave out some stats before about people playing it, and the reason that people didn't play it was it wasn't very good.
C'est vrai que je peux le comprendre, mais beaucoup de personnes de la communauté pensent que quand même en année de Coupe du Monde, ce serait dommage justement de ne pas pouvoir prendre une sélection internationale, que ce soit masculine ou aussi féminine, parce que je pense, et en tout cas moi c'est mon cas, quand je regarde notamment du football féminin, c'est souvent les grandes compétitions, donc pourquoi pas dans ma carrière faire un petit aléa, voilà justement en prenant la sélection française féminine pour découvrir justement cette nouveauté aussi, on en parlera un petit peu plus tard dans le jeu. Voilà, c'est vrai que peut-être la communauté a un petit peu de mal à comprendre pourquoi en année de Coupe du Monde, eh bien, FM n'a pas justement ce mode sélectionneur.
Well, we are recording this on a Wednesday evening, and it's going to be coming out at some point early next week, I believe. So this announcement may have been made already
Oh,
in the time in between, but I can announce tonight with you, international management is coming back. It's coming back during the FM26 cycle in what we're calling a content update.
free update?
So, sorry,
Free
free
update?
update. Oh yeah, free update. All of the content updates will be free updates. We're looking at doing 2 or 3 at the moment. One of them will have lots of quality of life things in. One of them's going to have international management in. There's other stuff coming as well. And not just as international management coming back, the other little surprise is it's coming back officially licensed by FIFA.
Oh,
So international management will come before the World Cup, and the World Cup will be fully licensed inside Football Manager. So we've already announced the Premier League license. We've announced a bunch of other licenses. We've announced women's football. We've announced women's football licenses. And today I can announce that we have a license with FIFA for the World Cup. It's a 4-year license, and that will also cover us for the Women's World Cup, for the Youth World Cups, and the Club World Championship in
oh.
the future as well.
Miles, une des grosses nouveautés de FM26, c'est le football féminin. Certains joueurs pensent d'ailleurs que c'est peut-être à cause de ça que FM25 n'est pas sorti, ou regrettent peut-être que vous vous êtes focalisé là-dessus au lieu de travailler par exemple sur les consignes bord de terrain. Moi je voulais savoir pourquoi c'était vraiment important d'ajouter le football féminin à Football Manager.
For the same reason we've added other leagues on the men's side of things, we want to give people the choice of what they want to do. You know, you can start the game as a men's only world or a women's only world, or you can have it as men's and women's. So we're letting people choose. But the people that think, you know, the point that you made there, or that some people are making, that it's the reason that FM25 didn't come out, to be frank, it's total nonsense. It's just not true. The team that were working on women's football weren't working on the UI. They weren't working on the user experience. They weren't working on the technology under the hood. Those are the reasons that FM25 didn't come out. And simple fact is, to make women's football a reality inside Football Manager, we expanded the team quite significantly at the studio. We brought in a load of extra people to work on it. And those people haven't just been working on women's football. They've been working on improving the rest of the game as well. So it's an absolute benefit to everyone who plays the game. And yeah, played absolutely zero to FM25 being delayed. Just wasn't a factor.
Miles, je voulais aborder avec toi un domaine pour les joueurs PC qui a toujours existé, c'est le modding, l'ajout des logos, des maillots, des visages des joueurs. Tu as dit que cette année, en tout cas dans un premier temps, sur FM26, il n'y aurait pas de skin possible sur FM26. Alors moi, je voulais savoir pourquoi. Est-ce que c'est une limitation technique de votre part, ou est-ce que c'est plutôt une volonté de ne pas autoriser les skins sur Football Manager pour justement que peut-être tous les joueurs s'habituent à la nouvelle interface?
So bear in mind that if you look at some of the most senior people at the studio, we all came from the modding scene. I used to make data updates for the game using an editor made by a guy who was known as Boa online, whose real name is Sven Fernie. He's technology director at the studio. It was put online by a guy called Mark Duffy, who's development director at the studio. We love that community. So very few games allow you to skin them properly. And for a game to allow you to skin them properly, they need to provide tools for people to be able to skin the game. And we made a difficult decision that we weren't going to work on those tools for this year, because we had too much other stuff to do that was more important, like getting the game actually working. So skinning, we absolutely plan for it to come back at some point in the future. I can't give you a year when that's going to be, We massively value the work of that community. And if you look at one of the most popular skins for Football Manager 24 was a skin that people downloaded, which was almost identical to our skin, but it had a button on it called Instant Result, which was something that was in the console game.
Yeah, I know. It's yeah. Some player play like this. We play Football Manager with a totally different way. Which player
Instant Result is going to be in our default skin for FM26.
Okay.
So if people want to play with Instant Result, they can. But the Unity system is incredibly different to our previous system. So we have to completely write new tools for us to be able to mod. And the reason that I'm not giving you a timeline on this is there might be more important thing that team are working on that is there for every single player of the game, but it is something we want to do longer term.
Miles, une des questions qui brûle un petit peu les lèvres en ce moment dans la communauté, c'est quand est-ce que l'Early Access ou la bêta de FM26 va sortir? D'ailleurs, tiens, est-ce que c'est une Early Access ou une bêta version qui va être disponible pour les joueurs?
Early Access beta.
Okay.
So it's we want to be able to continue to polish the game up until release. And with it being a new game on a new engine, that's going to be going out to a hell of a lot of people. We expect that there will be combinations of computers and hardware that the game hasn't been tested on because the amount of hardware out there is infinite. And if we see crashes coming in, we want to be able to try and fix them. It's slightly complicated because we're relying on platforms as well, like Xbox. The game is available on PC from the Microsoft Store and from Steam and from Epic, and they all have different rules about what you can and what you can't do. And so early access beta isn't even on the Microsoft Store, but for the day one purposes of it, there are still things that we have to go through called submission processes. And it's very important that those three versions of the game are identical. Otherwise, online play won't work across the three. So we are going to be calling it a beta. It's early access beta, just because we want to still be able to fix things right up till launch. And we'll continue that afterwards as well with a series of minor updates as well as the content updates.
Merci beaucoup pour les réponses. Maï, j'ai une dernière question. Est-ce que justement, il y a une question que tu redoutais que je te pose aujourd'hui? Et si oui, laquelle?
So the question I always dislike the most is, what's your favorite feature? And the reason that I dislike that question is because Football Manager is a sum of all of its features. It's not just one little thing that is, oh, this is great, the rest isn't. It's like if I had children and someone asked me, who's your favorite child, right? It's an impossible question to answer. So that's definitely a question that I don't enjoy. But I don't really dread being asked anything. I'm pretty open. I think people might have seen that on social media over the years when I was on there and in interviews. I'm pretty happy to answer anything. Even when I've got PR people sitting in the room going, don't answer that, don't answer that. I'm still happy to answer it. But my honesty gets me into trouble every day. So I'm glad that you didn't ask me too many difficult questions today, Arthur. But you still got some, hopefully you got some stuff that the community won't have heard before.
Alors pour rebondir à ta réponse, Miles, du coup j'ai une dernière question, ce coup-là c'est vraiment la dernière. Si tu avais du temps et de l'argent en illimité, qu'est-ce que tu ajouterais à Football Manager?
So I always really like, Microsoft released a device many years ago called HoloLens. If they had unlimited time and money, we would buy the rights to HoloLens, we would spend a fortune on improving it, and then everyone would be able to actually watch matches on their table in full 3D in front of them. That would be pretty incredible, but I don't think that's going to be happening anytime soon.
Maybe one day.
Maybe one day.
Et voilà, l'interview est terminée. J'espère que vous avez passé un agréable moment. J'ai hâte de lire vos commentaires sous la vidéo. En tout cas, comme je l'ai dit à Miles, moi ça a été un vrai plaisir de l'interviewer. Alors c'est pas mon métier, j'ai essayé de faire ça du mieux que j'ai pu avec mon anglais. Alors j'ai traduit mes questions pour vous, hein, mais bien sûr je lui avais posé en anglais, mais pour on va dire la fluidité de la vidéo, je trouvais que c'était plus sympa si moi je posais les questions en français et ensuite je mettais ses réponses. Mais bon voilà, c'était en tout cas un moment incroyable. C'est vraiment quelqu'un qui est passionné par son jeu. Il est là depuis toujours, hein, quasiment, dans cette aventure de nous proposer Football Manager. Donc on espère, comme il le dit, qu'on va tous prendre du plaisir sur FM26. Et puis, quand on voit autant de gens comme ça passionnés, en fait, je peux me dire que même s'il y a des choses qui ne nous plaisent pas sur FM26, on voit qu'il est un petit peu inquiet sur l'interface et notamment sur les joueurs qui sont habitués au jeu, comment on va prendre en main. Peut-être qu'il va nous falloir un petit peu de temps pour s'y habituer. Mais je vois pas comment une personne comme ça n'écoutera pas nos retours et fera tout pour que justement les gens kiffent Football Manager parce que c'est un véritable passionné, il joue à son jeu et j'espère qu'on va passer une année 2025-2026, une saison de football et une saison de Football Manager incroyable ensemble. Je vous fais plein de bisous, n'hésitez pas à vous abonner et à mettre un pouce bleu. Et puis maintenant, on va se poser, on va se caler et puis on va attendre tous ensemble la sortie de FM26.